This content creator named Kwabena, I believe, he asked the question, my people that were raised by extremely strict parents, how has that affected you as an adult? The Neighborhood Talk took that question to their Instagram page, and I would like to look at some of these comments. This person says, I have bad anxiety. I don't know how to show affection, homebody, don't have many friends, but I beat the teen pregnancy. I don't do hard drugs. I don't care for drinking, and I'm almost 23 with my own home, car. I work for myself, and I still don't have kids yet, so I guess they did something right. This person says, it's hard to speak up for yourself when you weren't allowed to have an opinion or speak up as a kid. And the person below her says, facts. I'll be 32 and just now getting used to speaking up for myself. This person says the biggest one, or just trusting your own decision making because they were all made for you, never really had a say. That I want to keep this in mind, and this one at the bottom, which subsequently made me a people pleaser. When parents are heavy handed and don't allow children to have an opinion, that makes adults sometimes that don't know how to express their opinions. And this people pleaser thread, I have seen that as I have done more and more story times and talked to people about their upbringing. The whole people pleaser situation comes up a lot. This person says she's anxious, introverted, very low tolerance, extremely sly and selective, also control issues. I despise people telling me what to do, like it grinds my gears. The whole extremely sly. When you have parents that are extremely strict, that means that sometimes this creates people that just circumvent those rules by lying or doing what you want and then just figuring out how to get away with it. I, that is definitely a way that some of these people have gone. This person said below her says, also, I don't like interacting with perfectionists. Being my mom was one. They literally suck the soul out of me. Um, exactly. When you have parents that are perfectionists, sometimes those people are the ones that you want to avoid. So you are not interacting with people that you grew up with. Cold Black Girl has some good and some bad. She says anxiety, perfectionism, struggles with worthiness, self advocacy, and people pleasing. On the flip side, solid morals, family values, work ethic, attentive to detail. She says, whew, it ain't all bad, but my God, there's a lot to balance out in adulthood. Cold Black Girl sounds a little bit like me. My mom was fairly strict. No dating till 16. Some of the things that is typical with Black parents and growing up in the church. I was already a very, very smart girl. I was valedictorian in my high school. I always had A's. I was always smart. And y'all could see how I am pretty nerdy. I nerd out quite a bit these days. So I can understand this, but but I moved away from home right after high school on purpose, hundreds of miles away. I went to college to get a little freedom. This person says, never been to jail, never in trouble, highly cautious, high levels of discernment in situations. It caused my focus to be on alert, but not to the point where I'm battling anxiety. And it made me very respected and respectful. I'm thankful I had a strict parent. Um, this next person, your parents' criticism of you as a child becomes your inner voice as an adult. I don't know where that quote's from, but okay. The person says, ask the children without the strict parents and see what they on. Now, this is where a binary fallacy comes into play, where it's either you have strict parents or you have overly permissive parents, when in actuality, there is the capacity to have some in between where you teach your children discernment without being overbearing. And I think that that is where we could go because we do want children and then adults to actually have a voice in how they live. Like I says, effed up my decision making ability. I hate confrontation. Even the things that aren't confrontational feel like it. I had the idea of what love and marriage was completely wrong. Taylor says, I'm working on standing up for myself. I know that sounds childish, but it's still true. This next person says, my anxiety is crazy when I feel like I'm doing something wrong, and I'm 25 years old. Gaga says, I'm actually grateful. I didn't understand when I was younger, but I do now. This person says, I don't go anywhere. It's hard for me to express myself and speak up sometimes. Barely have friends. Affection is harder for me to give people nowadays. I can read a room before I even step foot in it. Shall I continue? Hillary Banks says, extremely introverted and socially awkward. It's kind of strange, but I've made friends over the internet. Like, there's people I've been following for years, but never met these people a day in my life. City Blue says, still keep secrets for fear of judgment. Okay. I mean, that whole secret thing, because you have to, if you have very strict parents, you do what you can to not get in trouble. So this person says we have morals and values. This person says they F everybody. Just kidding. Joking. Bye, y'all. This person says, I couldn't look people in their eyes for so many years. Very socially awkward, afraid to ask for help. So a lot of times I suffer. This man says, don't really care to be around large crowds. And this last person is being silly. He says, I try not to pee in the water in the toilet because my mom used to hate noise. Okay, he's being silly. This conversation and the conversation about discipline and whooping your kids and all of that goes hand in hand with being raised in the church. And many of us Black folks were definitely raised in the Black church with authoritarian type of parents. And I was one of those people too, but I always had my own mind, always. So just as strong minded as I am now, I was like that then. But I knew I was one of those people that left home at the age of 18. I did it through going to college, and I moved hundreds of miles away on purpose and never looked back, never came back. So I do believe that sometimes that these situations will make you grow up really quickly. Like, okay, I cannot be here. So that was me. I'm wondering what y'all went through, because a lot of these people are saying pretty much the same thing. The whole people pleasing, the not being able to make decisions, can't have an opinion. You weren't allowed to have opinions when you have parents that are extra, extra strict. Were you allowed to have opinions? Were you allowed to have privacy? The privacy conversation is big in the Black community, where you're not allowed to have privacy, have phone calls. People could just invade your journals whenever they wanted to. It was just so many different things that we had to grow up and deal with. But I would like to hear y'all's point of view on this. So, coming back to this, I want to hear you guys weigh in. Were you raised by extremely strict parents? How has that affected you to this day as an adult? Jump in the comment section and let me know. This should be an interesting conversation. Here are two short clips from people talking about people pleasing. This woman, Mel Robbins, basically says to get over people pleasing, say no, and then tolerate the feelings of guilt and sadness from somebody else's disappointments. This is all well and good, but how do you do this when you live with somebody that is overly strict and that is your first realm into people pleasing? A lot of people have to unpack their childhood situation and overly strict parents in order to get out of people pleasing. But check out these next two short clips.
You want to know something interesting about people pleasing? People pleasing isn't about pleasing other people at all. You want to know what people pleasing is really about? It's about your inability to feel uncomfortable, normal emotions. I used to struggle with people pleasing. I was a yes person. I would scan the environment. I put everybody else first. I was constantly anticipating everybody else's needs. And the way that I broke the habit is realizing that it's possible to be a really good person and put yourself first. But you can only do that if you are able to tolerate the feelings of guilt or sadness or somebody else's disappointment. So you just got to practice it, and then you'll no longer be a people pleaser. And so here's how you do it. The next time somebody asks you to do something and you don't want to do it, say no, and then let the feelings Rise up, let them be disappointed, wait about 90 seconds, the whole thing passes, and you, my friend, will have just broken the habit of people pleasing. You would have felt the emotions you were avoiding, and that's the skill that you need to take control of your life.
Here are 3 reasons why you're a people pleaser. It's usually caused by childhood traumas, so identifying which one relates to you is the first step in overcoming it. So if you're ready to make that change, keep listening. You were only appreciated when you were obeying and quiet. What this teaches us when we're younger is that what we think and feel isn't important. Number 2 is the love you received was conditional. It was only given when you did something that was right in that parent or caregiver's eyes. A good example of this is if you constantly feel like you have to prove yourself to that person. And lastly, you were taught that you only get love when you meet other people's needs. And the biggest issue with this is it makes you say yes to things that you really don't want to, just so you can believe you're loved. If you want to discover more about yourself and become your best you, follow my page.